Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Chief of Staff Academy webinar series. Today, we have a guest speaker, Galina Lipina, who's going to lead us through three keys of effective adaptability. And so first, I'd like to talk about the Chief of Staff Academy. So why the Chief of Staff Academy? I wanted to provide something that was a resource I was missing when I started as a chief of staff. So we are exclusively focused on chief of staff development and coaching. So this is through virtual training, but also in-person training and coaching along the way, but also application of the training in on the field. And we bring proven practices. This is very important because the chief of staff role, especially, is could be very short. It could be 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. And during this short period of time, you want to be able to accelerate your impact as quickly as possible. And you don't have time to do trial and error. So those proven practices are things you can apply directly onto your day-to-day job and very quickly. So, and I also wanted to surround myself with the expert trainers. You might have seen people like Brad and Nathan joining some of our former previous webinars. And then people like Galina, who's today one of the partner of the Chief of Staff Academy. And then the last point I would make is the learn by doing philosophy. This is very important for me. This is probably where the learning is happening the most, is when you are able to apply your learning. And so even if you're not a chief of staff, you most likely have opportunities to identify projects that you can join either as a core team member, or you can maybe lead even special projects, or you might find opportunities to be involved in strategy planning and deployment of those large business transformation programs. So really, this is something that you can do even if you're not in the role. You can learn to become a chief of staff, and by doing some of those aspects that are very standard to the chief of staff role. My name is Arnaud Rager. I am the founder of Chief of Staff Academy. I am a 4-time chief of staff with company like Johnson & Johnson, but also much smaller company in the tech startup world of 20 people, and one in the biotech industry of 300 people. My last role was as a VP of business transformation, and I often refer to this role as an augmented chief of staff role because I had the privilege of building the business transformation office and had a team of 20 people reporting to me. Not surprisingly, I choose 3 of what I consider to be key expertise to the chief of staff to build this business transformation office. So we had a group of project management, a group of change management, and a group of process excellence and Lean Six Sigma. We did a lot of special project business transformation programs, and this is where adaptability I found was very key, especially in those business transformation program where change is really the main aspect of the program. So I'll turn it over to Galina to introduce herself, and then will lead us through this adaptability and how this is an essential skill for chief of staff.
Thank you, Arnaud. So hi, everyone. My name is Galina Lipina, and I'm the founder of the company named Turning Point. And we focus on business and personal transformations and changes for people. And one of our focus is to teach people how to understand, measure, and improve their adaptability and their resilience. Why adaptability and resilience? As we all know, the speed of change is picking up. And with AI and layoffs and massive changes in the economy, it's no longer a luxury, it's a must-have. And LinkedIn Learning defined adaptability as #1 sought-out skill this year. So it's measurable and it's a skill. So it's not a gift you're born with. You can measure it, you can start wherever you are, and then there's things you can do to improve it. Resilience, which is our ability to deal with stress and setbacks, is part of adaptability. So they go hand in hand. So I am a certified adaptability and resilience consultant and trainer with many different certifications. I have also had experience of being a project manager for over 18 years. And I have also been an executive coach and a trainer and a speaker in the field of business and personal transformation. So now, today, we're going to talk about how adaptability applies to chief of staff. What is adaptability? And how important it is, especially for people in chief of staff and leadership positions, and the role that it plays in your ability to be an effective leader. So we'll start with 3 and go from there. So what is adaptability and why it is important? So in the MBA student study, where they studied them 5 to 19 years after they graduated, what they found is that adaptability was the highest predictor of their career satisfaction and of their career success. And now in the constantly changing world, it's an asset in leadership and also heart of innovation. It's connected to everything. So why adaptability is important for leadership and not just for us adapting in our personal lives? Because we cannot just be adaptable for ourselves. We have to lead our teams through being adaptable. First, we have to respond really effectively to rapid change and uncertainty. And we all know who worked in the corporate world that layoffs and restructuring and changing business directions happen more than once a year on average these days. As a leader, we have to lead through disruption without losing focus, because it's so easy to shift from one shiny object to the next and lose where we're actually leading our teams and what results we're creating for ourselves, our companies, and our customers. Adaptability allows us to make confident decisions with incomplete information, because in the ideal world, we want to have all the data and then make decisions, but it doesn't work that way, at least not now. So the ability to make decisions with what we have and pivot and adapt when we discover more data is important. Another part, which is important also, is to pivot quickly when strategies shift, when data comes in, when priorities shift. So we no longer can stick with the same direction for years. In another research that was done by the Reinvention Academy, it say that every company now needs to completely reinvent itself every 4 years or it goes out of business. In the past, it was decades, but it's no longer the luxury. So we have to pivot and we have to adapt. Otherwise, the companies die. And last but not least, as part of the leadership skill, we have to inspire our teams to embrace change. And we have usually all sorts of different personalities on the team. And I'm going to talk about that later in this webinar, so that we can lead effectively all different personalities, all different skill sets for people who can embrace change and not embrace change. That is also part of our leadership skills. So before we dive deeper into the content, I would like to kind of get a little bit of gauge of who we have here today. So I'd like to make a short poll, and you can just put in the chat number which one you are. So how confident are you in your ability to lead through change? Very confident, confident, occasionally struggle, or not confident. So we got mostly 1s and 2s. Very love your answer. Fantastic. So we were feeling pretty good. That's amazing. So then today will not probably be big revelations for you guys, but it's going to be fine tuning of the things that might be hiding and important. So I would like to play a short clip from a documentary on adaptability. It's not the full documentary, it's a short few minutes clip. And if you're interested, of course, you can watch the full movie on the website. But this gives you an introduction in the company that created a way to measure adaptability. And they call it AQ, which is adaptability quotient, similar to IQ and EQ that measures your intellect or measures your emotional intelligence. This measures your adaptability. So this little video talks about what it is, how they came up with the idea, and how it applies practically to measurement and breakdown.
In order to improve anything, you have to measure it. So when we started to look at adaptability as a key component that everybody's saying, this is the thing, this is what we need to unlock and understand to thrive in the future.
I have a different methodology to assess startup founders, and it's not complicated. I look for signs of one specific trait. Not IQ, not EQ. It's adaptability. How well a person reacts to the inevitability of change, and lots of it. Adaptability itself is a form of intelligence, and our adaptability quotient, or AQ, is something that can be measured, tested, and improved.
The whole concept of AQ, of adaptability quotient, we broke it down into 3 areas: ability, character, and environment. So AQ ability is how and to what degree do I adapt?
It's a choice. Many people don't realize it's a choice, but I think it's a choice about how not only you want to react to certain, but what kind of people you want to surround yourself with.
AQ character, it's who adapts and why.
Some people will adapt because they're motivated by big goals, by growth, by achievement. While the others will adapt because I have to adapt. It's a duty. I must, otherwise I will lose my job. And you are actually not bad because you adapt perhaps in a very systematic way. It's just your character. But your manager must know about that.
AQ environment is about when does somebody adapt and to what degree.
People spend 2/3 of their time in the office working. If they have a frustrating experience, a depressing experience, an experience that sucks when they have to go to work, then probably their life will be impacted in the same way.
We're at the ground, 0.1 of assessment and measure, and we do it through a conversational chatbot. So you'll have a 25-minute, half an hour conversation. We're working to get that as natural as possible, and you will then get a score, so an AQ score, and you'll also get a bit of a profile. But taking that data only shows you that snapshot. What we're super excited about is, can we predict what might happen next? A reskill index or a change readiness of that team or cohort or workforce, so that we can then put interventions in place for those that might struggle, aren't quite ready, so that we're using our resources effectively.
I think adaptability is one of those essential skills for the future. You gotta have great IQ, you gotta have EQ, but if you don't have your AQ now for the future, you're not gonna stand out. You set your mindset towards it as you learn and build that muscle. It's something that everyone needs to focus on through life.
So this was a brief intro, and now let's dive in a little deeper. So first, let's start with the definition of adaptability. What is adaptability? So it's our capacity to adjust one's thoughts and behaviors in order to effectively respond to uncertainty, new information, and changed circumstances. So it is a skill, as Ross, the founder of AQA company, talked about in the video. And in the model, they break down adaptability into 3 dimensions, 15 subdimensions. So AQ ability, which is the box on the left that you can see, those are all the skills. Those are the skills of adapting that you can train, measure, and improve. Character is how you personally deal with change, and it has to do with your personal approach to it. Those things could be changed, but they're very slow to change, and they're more related to how kind of like your predispositions in the current environment. And then AQ environment, it is the definition of how adaptable is your environment. The company, the business, the processes, and the values and the communication set up in the way that encourages innovation and adaptation or discourages it. So I will briefly go through each of them just to give you a brief definitions of each subdimension so you can get an idea. So the ability, what is grit? Grit is our ability to stay the course and to follow through and not stop until we reach the goals. So it's your ability to persevere in face of challenges and adversities. Mental flexibility, very important. It's the ability to accept, appreciate, and embrace difference in opinions, demands, and problems. So that's your ability to hold your personal perspective and ability to hear another person's perspective. Hold the possibility and problems of your manager and your peers and your staff and have it all be okay. And not trying to make yourself right or other people wrong. Mindset is your general outlook on change. Do you believe change usually leads to good things, or do you believe that change is usually a bad thing? And all of these things are ranges. So it's not black and white, like the assessment measures where you fall on the range of these things. Resilience is our ability to recover quickly from setbacks or ability to bounce back when something happens unexpectedly. And unlearning is our ability to let go of the old skills and learn the new skills. So when something stops working, you can actually let go of that old and try something new and not be attached to how things are. So those are the abilities that We all have a certain degree and we all can change them. Now, the character, which is a little bit more stable as it relates to where you are. So emotional range is the extent to which you experience emotions because of the situation in your environment. So you can be either very reactive, so your emotions go up and down a lot, or you can be more or less collected and managing them quite nicely. Extroversion, it's not just the personality, like do you like people or not. Extroversion, as it relates to adaptability, is how do you prefer to handle change? So when the change happens, do you want to talk it out right away? Do you want to be with people and find solutions together? Or do you prefer to get the communication from your management about the change and then go away and be by yourself and process and then come back and talk about it? So knowing where you land and your people land allows you to craft effective communication when change is happening. Hope in the model of adaptability is our belief that we can find the way. So if path number 1 doesn't work, we know we'll find number 2 or number 3, and we don't have doubts that we'll solve it eventually. So high hope is that you know that you'll find the solution and you're very resourceful. Low hope, when you feel like there's nothing you can do, this thing doesn't work, and you're very easily to give up. Motivational style is what motivates you. And people usually are motivated either by something that they want, so big goals, dreams, next phase, expansion, or they're motivated by trying to get away from pain or loss. So they're motivated more by trying not to lose their job than try to upgrade to the next level in their job. And thinking style is how do we approach problem solving, communications, everything in the world, and it's usually either big picture thinking or small details, and it could be the middle. So all of these are ranges. So some people love to give all the details, and some people just give me the high level bullet points. And we all know both types of these people in our lives. So those are the character dimension of the adaptability. What is environment? So the environment is how well your company or your business is set up for being adaptable and give the opportunity for your processes and your people to adapt. So company support is the general perception of the employees. Do they feel like the company cares about them and about their well-being? Emotional health is the degree to which employees thrive at work. Do they experience mostly positive emotions or mostly negative emotions or somewhere in the middle? Team support is your relationship to your immediate team, the core people that you work with every day. And team support is your feeling of freedom to share your opinions, the belief that your people got your back, that if you make a mistake, it can be resolved and nobody will hold it over your head. And you can openly discuss your opinions and not feel shut down. Psychological safety also fits into this category. Work environment, it's actually the processes and the structures. So does your organization facilitate and encourage innovation, rapid transformations, experimentation, or does it hamper it and makes it mostly impossible? So that's the impact from the environment itself. And the work stress, here it's not the same stress as resilience. Work stress in the AQ environment, it's your overall overload with tasks. Like, do you feel you have more on the plate that you can handle, or do you feel like you have a reasonable amount of work that you can manage? So all of this defines your overall adaptability. And as Ross mentioned, it is a snapshot in time. It's not set in stone for the rest of your life. It very highly depends on your current state in your life and the level of your stress and resilience, the adaptability environment of your organization or your business, and also your ability to upgrade your skills. So now I'll give Arnaud a couple of slides to share how all of this relates to Chief of Staff before we proceed any further.
Yes, so everything we've seen is something that relates very tightly to what we've seen on the previous webinar on business transformation. And change management was actually one of the components of this business transformation framework. And when you look at the journey of change management through a transformation, it's really the first step is really to make it real. This is when people realize that the change, the current state is changing. And so that's when kind of the trigger of adaptability, and also they need to make a conscious choice about wanting to engage and being part of this change. So that's really the first step of making it real. Something is happening and something is changing. My environment is not going to be the same. The second stage is the make it work. And this is where employee needs to learn new skills. And so there is a role to play as leaders to make sure that everyone who is expected to change has the right support in terms of learning those new skills. But then they also need to demonstrate that they can apply those new skills and perform in this new environment. And that's part of the make it work. And then the last phase, the third phase, is make it last. When we go through a transformation, we also want this to be sustained. And this is when people who are part of the change, who are owning the process and running the process on the day-to-day basis, needs to become accountable and owning this responsibility of running this on a day-to-day basis. And this is part of a broader framework. And this is the whole business transformation framework. If you want to learn more about that, we have an additional webinar that's posted on our website that you can go through and learn everything about this framework. So back to you, Galina.
Thank you, Arnaud. So before we move on to the next steps, any questions on the adaptability model and the subdimensions? Anything that kind of piqued your interest or something you're curious about before we move further?
So my only question is, like, Brett, I see these 3 pillars, 15, 5, I don't know what you call them, but 5 aspects that roll up to them. What is the testing for this like? I imagine it's not short, and it's not a 10-minute, quiz.
Yeah, so the testing, it takes about 20 to 30 minutes, depending how much you want to.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah, and it's a conversational chatbot. So you get answered questions and you either pick things or you type things. So it's very interactive. It's very easy. And the beauty of like why when I discovered this model and I kind of took it into my business is you can measure it on your individual level. So you can your own adaptability and where you are, highs, lows, and define what you need to work on. But if you're leading teams or you own a business, you can have all your people take the assessment. And in addition to each person getting their individual report, you as a manager can get a team report so that you can see how many of your people are low, medium, high adaptability. You can see how they split for each subdimensions. So you can see the outliers. Maybe everybody has a very high grit, but very low resilience or vice versa. So it gives a lot of data to the people who lead the business transformations or people who lead teams to then support their teams most effectively. And one of the things that relate to the change management aspect that are not talked about, one of the outcomes of the team report is change readiness index. So that's when teams are actually ready for change, or maybe they're have like such a high burnout from all the changes that you throw another change on them, they just can't do it. So it also allows you to predict the success of this initiatives and, add additional measures of training and coaching if certain things don't fall into place.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Any other questions?
You mentioned that the AQ character was probably the most difficult to change because it's about you. Would you say that the AQ ability is the one where you can most easily train and really adapt?
Abilities are definitely very easily, and that's where the trainings that I do on the neuroscience of change and the resilience advantage, they give you all the foundation to change those habits because they're just trained behaviors, trained thinking and feeling habits that you can change.
Yeah.
The character is slower to change, but some things there still are. For example, the emotional range, your emotional reactivity, the more coherent you become and the more you become aware of your feelings and manage them and clear the triggers that get you up and down, your reactivity goes down as well. But it takes more time and it takes more work. And it's kind of really hard to change on the fundamental level without doing the deeper work.
Yeah. And what about environment? Because I would assume that yes, character is tough to change and it takes time. But environment, I think every one of us might have been in an environment that we thought, or at least I thought, was really, really challenging to change. And so it seems that they are at least equal, and sometimes environment could be even more difficult to change, because now you need to um, impact much more than one person. You need to impact a lot of people.
Yes, so the environment dimensions, I love that one a lot, because that one is actually gives the data to the management. So if you're just, the worker on the team that has a very low AQ environment, yes, of course, there's certain things you can do to manage to affect changes upstream in your management chain, but it takes, it's another leadership kind of skill, like how to impact upstream, right? But this is usually a good input to people who lead on the top. Because if the AQ environment shows up low somewhere, those are red flags that if you don't fix it, your company won't adapt, your teams won't adapt, you'll have high turnover. There's a lot of problems that will be happening if the AQ environment is low. And the report allows you to see like the breakdown of which ones are high, which ones are low, and it stores the data for the percentage of the teams, which one is where, so that you can plan change management activities, you can train activities, you can look at specific processes and procedures, you can do additional surveys to get more data from people. So this is more of the data point to the management, in my opinion, to then impact change from top down. And certain things like team support, for example, that's your immediate team, that's you and your manager, and you can change that one without impacting the rest of the company. So the same as work stress. It's just like, what are the things that you can change in your immediate environment, and what are some of the ones that are higher?
Yeah, makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we'll keep going to the next ones. So as Barry said, it's 15 subdimensions. That's a lot of data. What do we look at? Let's say you got the report, you measured yourself, some is high, some is low, some is medium. How do you focus on which ones you need to put your attention on to improve? Because trying to change 15 things all at once never works. So luckily, as part of the adaptability research that the AQAI company has done, they've also collected the data and created a priority outcome matrix that maps typical outcomes that either businesses, teams, or individuals want, and what are the top 3 subdimensions that has the highest correlation to that outcome. For example, the top one, change programs. If you have high grit, high unlearning, and high hope, you most likely will be able to do successful change programs. Otherwise, have less, other ones, they have less correlation. For retention and motivation, it's another 3. For innovative culture is another 3. So this at least allows you to look at it. It's like, okay, I got the data from the reports. What is my priority? Do I want to innovate better? Do I want to increase performance? Do I want to crank up wellness and lower the anxiety? Or is my leadership development the priority? Once you decide what is your priority right now, then you can narrow your focus on the things that are important for your current goal and priority right now. Now, there's a lot of things here. When I looked at what might be the most relevant for the chief of staff, right? And I believe these 3 are the top priority depending on where people are. So if you're just learning to be a chief of staff and you've just been a project manager or change manager, then reskill and upskill is probably most important, because you need to pick up a new skill of what does it mean to be a good chief of staff. And that's what Knott's company is all about. If you're looking for your next position and you want to upgrade to chief of staff as your next step, employability would be a priority. You want to put yourself in the light that can get you that position so you can proceed with your career goals. And last but not least, and I think that one applies to most people on the webinar here, because most people here are leaders. Whether you're chief of staff, aspiring chief of staff, current or future, leadership is part of the job. So in the rest of the webinar today, we're going to dive into the 3 subdimensions that have to do with leadership. And as you can see on the screen, it is grit, mindset, and hope. So that will be our focus for the next one. Before we proceed to the next step, questions or not?
Yes, I was more of a comment than a question, but I was reflecting on the reskill and upskill, and I see that everything is under ability, and that kind of linked back to what I talked about in the beginning about learning by doing. Not necessarily for the soft skill, but I would say for the hard skill and an ability to develop your skill in project management, maybe, or other areas. Then this is something you can do on your own, and you can do quite fast, and you don't necessarily need to have the environment. And I'm not talking about toxic environment where you can't do anything, but if you are in a regularly or reasonably healthy environment, then you should be able, as an aspiring chief of staff, to identify what are those different skills that I can do, and this is interesting to see that it's flagged in the matrix here as something you can take care of by yourself and with probably limited time to be able to bring those skill set up.
Beautiful. Thank you. Brad?
Perfect. Thank you, Galina. This is fascinating. I just want to make sure I understand. Can you state, precisely how were these X's determined again? I may have missed that.
Yeah, so when the AQAI company got formed and the team got called to put this together because they just sensed that, the world needs it, which was a few years ago, they collected a lot of research. So first, when they developed the actual model and this 15 subdimensions, it was not just like we think that's it. Like there was a lot of research. They worked with the researchers and the scientists. They pulled all the scientific research around the organizational development, on the skill management. So like everything they pulled together, it gave them A, the model, the 5 dimensions, 15 subdimensions, and B, another part of their research was now tying all of that to what do people actually want? Like what do they actually give to people? And then there's like massive, as part of my training, because I'm level 2 certified AQI consultant, can consult on teams and individual assessments and growth. There's massive correlation tables for those like science geeks that map like subdimensions to each other, subdimensions to goals. And this was all based on the data, the research that they've done as part of creating.
Perfect.
So yeah.
Thank you for answering that.
Absolutely. Thank you for a great question. Any other questions before we move on? All right, so now this will be a participation part. So we're not going to just think about it theoretically, we're going to apply it to ourselves. So our key number 3, not 2, is assessing and improving. So first, I would invite you to do a self-assessment. I'll give you a couple minutes to read it and think about it. But here, the top 3 subdimensions that relate to the leadership are grit, mindset, and hope. And I'm going to read through the definitions, and I want you to just rate it for yourself of where you think you fit. Are you high, are you low, or are you medium? So grit is your ability to stay the course and follow through on important goals. So people with high grit, they just keep going no matter what. Nothing stops them. They will finish, even if it's hard. They keep going. They don't stop. They don't avoid. They're like a train on the tracks. They just keep going. People who have low grit, they always just give up when things get a little hard. They have a challenge with staying committed to keep going. And they have challenges to committing to longer term goals. So they can be okay with daily or weekly goals, but when it's in the long term, they give up midway. And then people who land somewhere in the medium, in the middle, they can keep going, but they need some support. They need maybe reminders, maybe they need structure, maybe they need encouragement. So like they don't give up easily, but they don't keep going no matter what either. So you can be somewhere on the spectrum, could be high, medium, or low. So for now, I just want you to jot it down for yourself, where you think you'll land on the grid subdimension. And we'll do the shares later. So second subdimension is mindset. And mindset is your belief that change and adaptation will lead to positive outcomes. So mindset, high mindset as it relates to adaptability, is you see every change as an opportunity. And you expect to grow from every situation, whether it goes like you expect or not. So you always see like something good is going to come out of it. That's your predisposition to change. If you have low mindset, you feel like change always feels risky or negative. You prefer familiar, you don't really like change, and you tend to resist change. And overall, you have a belief that change always turns out kind of for the worse. So there's likely no benefits. It's better just to keep things as they are. And you can be somewhere in the middle. So in the middle could be you're open to change, but maybe you're more open to some changes than others. Maybe you need a little bit of reassurance. Maybe you need a little bit of motivation. Maybe you need a little bit of perspective shift around certain contexts, but like you're not always change is awesome or change is horrible, like it's situational for you. So I need to jot down for yourself where you think you'll land on mindset. And then the third subdimension is hope. So the hope is as it relates to adaptability, again, because there's many different definitions of hope. So hope as it relates to adaptability is your mindset to pursue goals and create alternative paths when challenged. So that is a spectrum. There's no high, medium, low. It's like either hopeful or fearful. And you can be somewhere in the middle. So you can say high, medium, low if you like. So high hope is when you trust that you'll find another way if your first way fails. And you can generate multiple options, multiple pathways, and you don't get discouraged if certain options don't work out. You know that like one of them will work and you just keep switching and trying and testing. Fearful spectrum of hope is you try one way, it didn't work out, and you just shut down. So you don't trust that there will be another way. You think like this is it and it didn't work, so I should give up. It's not meant for me. I need to quit. I need to look for another job, whatever your option of escaping the staying in the game looks like. And you also struggle to see different paths. So people in the fearful spectrum, they only see one way, maybe two, and that's it. They don't have the imagination or the skill set to generate other ideas. So now I would like for you to, for not to open our breakout rooms, and we can put maybe like 3 people in the room-ish. So like two, 3 rooms.
Okay.
Depending on the host, sub-host that you want to put in. And in the rooms, I want you to spend 5 to 10 minutes or 40. So we'll do 7 minutes. So we have enough time for the questions in the end. And in the rooms, I want you to manage your time however you want. And I want you to share your reflections, like kind of go around and see, hey, I'm high here, medium here, low here. And discuss where you feel like there's some room for growth. So if you're medium or low, those are the, things that you can potentially improve. And then brainstorm together practical steps, mindset shifts, practices of what can you do to increase those subdimensions that are medium or low for you, if any.
We have more questions than answers, honestly.
Awesome. That was the whole point.
That's good.
Questions, that what brings clarity. Awesome. So the floor is open. We'll have about 5 minutes or so to kind of discuss, share, question, and then we're going to close. So any shares you want to share, ask, discuss with the whole room, please raise your hands and let's get going.
Okay, so can I start by asking a couple things?
Yes,
so Kelly and I were discussing grit, and we had a question about ability to change versus availability to change. So one of the questions was, yes, I am ready, I am able, but I don't have the time right now, and it will take me a while longer than originally thought. How do I evaluate that? Is that lack of grit, or is that just high grit versus low resources?
So what you talk about covers like spans between multiple subdimensions, right? So there's unlearning and relearning, right? So like any change requires actual change, right? So part of unlearning and relearning is to letting go of the old, not just behaviors, but beliefs. So the belief of I don't have enough time, it's a belief. Most people don't know it's a belief. We all have time. We all have time to watch Netflix and brush our teeth and do our things. So it's all about how do we prioritize our time. So managing the change requires you to get in touch with the part of you that actually is able to change. and that's a skill. So that's unlearning and relearning skills. Like how can, like you choose the change, but you don't know how, or you don't feel like you can, right?
Okay.
Grit is when you decided that I am changing this and I have started,
Okay.
and I'm not going to give up tomorrow because I woke up on the wrong side of the bed. Or I'm not going to give up tomorrow because something else came up and it took my attention off of it. I stay with it. I find ways. I don't just give up. So that's the grit part of it.
And
Um,
and the second question we have, well, not question, but observation. It's very common in today's world with emerging technologies and stuff like that. You might be in the, we were analyzing a specific case. You might be in a company for a while, you have a learning curve, you are right on top of it, and a new technology comes in, your job is now enhanced, but you're now at the same level at entry level people because of these new technologies. So yes, I see change as an opportunity, but what I'm risking here is my superpowers are now back to zero. So we have to deal with that a lot.
yes, absolutely. And the beauty of adaptability, like once you enhance your adaptability, you can stay ahead of that curve. Because even people who are highly adaptable, the new curveball comes in, they know how to take advantage of it. People who have low adaptability, they will probably complain about it, bitch about it, feel sad about it, shut down, and like do all this other ways. Like the people like low resilience would be that, right? So something happens and it knocked you off because the new version of, I don't know, Cursor came out and now it codes better than your senior dev, and now you're afraid, right? So all of that, people who have high adaptability is like, oh my God, new version came out. Let me use it to the best of my advantage, right?
Okay.
And some people resist change. They don't like it. They want to stay things as they are. So part of all of the sub-dimensions, like mindset, is do you think is a good thing that new version came out and everybody's flat now? Because now you can be as good as the next version per person app. So it's now the soft skills that become more important. The leadership skills become more important because they're replaced by AI, right? Your adaptability and looking for opportunities is your unique skill. The way that you ask questions to AI is your unique way. Some people ask brilliant questions. Some people don't know how to ask questions. So adaptability and the innovation is your ability to stay ahead of the curve and not feel stressed and as a victim to environment. Does that make
Thank
sense?
you.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Beautiful. Amazing questions. Any other questions? Or shares or wins or ahas? Yeah.
We had a discussion about grit, and could you get to a place where you may have your grit too high, and you needed to tone it down so that you can get the right decisions done. We discussed that.
Brilliant. Very, very good question. Because I know how many of us are like overachievers and perfectionists on this call. Like we always want to be top on all the ranges, right? So one of the things to know about adaptability, like everything high is not always the greatest. Because people have high grit, but maybe, like they just stick with something, it doesn't work, and they just still go there and go there and they go there, and it doesn't work, and they ignore everything. They're just like, they're on the track. So, and people with grit, when they have low self-awareness sometimes, like it happened to me last year, like I teach resilience and stress management, and I hit burnout I've never hit before because I had high grit and high resilience, so I thought I was invincible. I thought I could manage all of this and I'm not going to break. And it was that I started crying on a group call that I realized maybe I took on too much. So not everything is always good. Self-awareness is important, and knowing what you need to improve, only you know. And if grit is high, but other things are low, maybe other things need more attention. Amazing, amazing.
That's a great call out, Galina. Employees can kind of bulldoze other people's initiatives when their grit is there, but they don't have the awareness of how they're impacting the organization's goals broader than what they're working on. I've definitely seen that. The last thing I'll say, we had a great discussion. I think for me, and the way it came up was around decisiveness, having courage to make decisions, and getting reassurance. Me personally, I also am very risk averse. These things are all related, I believe, to these factors.
Yeah. Yeah, the risk averse is an interesting one. Let me go back here. So the risk tolerant culture, actually the highest three that correlate to that one is mental flexibility, resilience, and unlearning. So ability to hold multiple opinions, ability to recover from curveballs, And knowing that you can unlearn and relearn increases your risk tolerance.
Yeah. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, so we'll wrap it up because we only have a couple minutes here, and then we can stay longer for questions if anybody has more, and like we can keep going. I can keep going. So to bring it all kind of together, the 3 keys to adaptability that we covered today, one is understanding what it is, and we covered the model and the subdimensions. Second is choosing the right focus based on your current goals, personally or organizationally. And third is assessing where you are and planning the areas for growth and actually going through that growth. So as of course, couldn't fit everything in an hour. I did what I could. So we, of course, can go further. And there's, you know, opportunities to continue with me or not in both of us. So the options that we thought would be more useful is of course, you're all welcome to take an assessment. And I will send the link in the chat. And so you can take an assessment. $85 is the regular going rate for everybody on the webinar. I offer a 10% off, so you get a little bit of a discount. So you can take an assessment, you can get all your subdimensions, and you can see the data measured for you. Now, if you want to go a little further than just the assessment, I very often offer a debrief after the assessment so we can meet one-on-one for an hour and go through your results, go through your goals, go to figure out like what do you want next and how to best align your strategy and what you need to get there. So what we offer here actually is more than what I usually offer. It's not just going to be a call with me. It's going to be a call with me and Arnold. So it's going to be, you know, 3 people on the call, and we're going to both debrief the adaptability assessments and any questions you have there and how can that support your strategy going forward. And Arnaud will help you out defining the strategy for your leadership journey, for your chief of staff journey. So from his experience, and he can bring all the years of wisdom to where you are and give you practical advice and strategy and other opportunities to do things together. So to do that, we can go to this link. Let me copy to the
And I
chat.
placed the link in the chat. So you have that already in the chat.
Perfect. So TurningPoint.pro/AQ #start. That will scroll you straight to the section where you put in, you know, and you choose AQME assessment on the left. And don't forget COS as the promo code. That doesn't only just give you 10% off if you book a session. We know that we need to coordinate the time that works for all 3 of us. So please put that code in so that, you know, it's not just a session with me, it's a session with both of us. And want to leave it is with a quote from Alan Watts: "The only way to make sense out of change is to plunge into it, move with it, and join the dance." Now we are off with the content, and any other additional questions about anything you learned here about adaptability, about chief of staff, about how to apply to where you are? I'll stop the share so we can see faces better.
And I thought that was awesome. It's good to see you, and every time I see you, you've got this whole package just expands and makes more and more sense. I love the 3 pillars of, you know, the 2 personal and then the environment. I think, you know, you are nailing this. And I invited a client of mine to join today, but it doesn't look like she made it, so I don't know if she registered or not. But
she can watch the recording if she wants to.
Yes.
I'm gonna say, yeah, maybe I can forward a recording to her because they have a large organization that is facing some change. So, but I loved it. I thought it was wonderful, and I appreciate the chief of staff, your group. I just saw you guys on LinkedIn and hopped in. Was curious about what you do, and so I appreciate the invite and being able to join today. So thank you.
Kelly, the webinar that I think, Arnold, you have last time that goes deeper into it, one of the things that was really kind of like why me and Arnold connected is that I never thought of chief of staff as the potential next step for somebody who has been a project manager or manager. So like I never heard about it. I didn't know what it was until we talked about it. I was like, oh, well, for somebody who feel kind of flat where they are with the positions they're at, like that could be the next step. So if I don't know where you are now. We haven't spoken in a little bit. So
yeah. I mean, it was a term I'm very familiar with in the political realm,
Mhm.
but I didn't realize that it was, and even for some law offices and stuff. But I appreciated it, and I learned
Galina,
something quite a bit. So thank you.
a quick observation. It'll be interesting to see as a people leader, not as an individual leader, how is the IQ of my team, or what are the common areas that my team has that I can, as a leader, help them enforce, not
yes,
just as an individual assessment. So I think that's food for thought.
thank you. Yes, the team reports are my favorites because that it gives so much data and it empowers the leadership to do whatever they need to do to improve that. Thank you. Wrap it up.
Thank you
Very
everyone
interesting.
for
you.
joining. And as Galina mentioned, there will be a follow-up email with a link to reach the recording for the webinar, and feel free to share this link with people you know. As long as they have the link, then they can access to the recording. So thank you everyone, and have a
Thank
good rest
you.
of your day.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.